Okay, I think we'll get started. Thank you all for being here. And thank you so much to all of you who've traveled quite a ways. I know some of you have traveled 2 hours to get here, so my sympathies and my gratitude to some of you who have done that. This is our 2025 edition of Find, Tell, Share Stories, and we're super excited to share with you a launch of tens and thousands of new archival objects, sharing about 10 different kinds of projects that we've been doing around the archives, and of course the new exhibition curated by Dhatri and with the co-artists Kinjal and Sindhu. My name is Venkat and I'm part of the team here at the archives at NCBS. So the archives at NCBS, if some of you haven't visited, and I think many of you in the audience haven't, so we're quite excited for that, is a public collecting center for the history of science in contemporary India, which means that we look at material from across South Asia over the last 200 years or so. And we'd like to think that we have a fairly broad perspective on what is meant by science, and you shall see that in the slides that Anjali and Deepika share with all of you in a little bit of time. My job is relatively easy in that I'm going to give a bunch of thank yous, so stand by for that. We cannot do what we do without the support, both financially and through in-kind, from our funders and our supporters. So really thanks to NCBS for being an excellent host for the archive, to the TNQ Foundation, and to Arcadia for really sort of kicking off this 3-year project on looking at the history of science in contemporary India. So to TNQ and Arcadia, we're super grateful for your support in the last few years, and we look forward to the continued collaboration in the years to come. Thank you. This work obviously is also not going to be possible if we don't get material. And here is a list, a very large growing list, as you can see, we're running out of space, of more than 130 different individuals who have contributed time, material, pulled out material from their almiras, contacted family members. So this is a labor of love for many of them, and it has become a labor of love for us. So really very grateful to all of these people that are listed here, and some of them are also online joining us on Zoom, so thank you for joining us. And maybe some of them are in the audience as well. So thanks to all the donors of archival material over the last many years. Our work is shaped and strengthened by the people who interrogate our work and try and figure out what's going wrong, what's going right. It of course started out with the work that Jeetu and Uma had done in years before, and Shashi, the current director, and Shashi Tutapalli are the current leads in the Archives Review Committee. Anjana, Archishman, Shashi, of course I mentioned, Uma and Vidya, thank you for providing all your feedback in the last year in shaping some of the ideas of the archive. Just as important is the external review committee, which is an extraordinary set of people that we are actually very privileged to have on board. Anne Flor from the European Meteorological Center, Aparajit from Ahmedabad University, Indra, who is the co-founder of the Center for Public History, and Mariela Soprano, who is at Caltech Archives and also the chair of this committee. They have really strengthened and broadened, sort of given perspective from outside this campus, because sometimes you start to feel like you're in a little bit of a bubble. So again, thanks to all 4 of them for shaping ideas over the last 2 years of what this archive should be doing. I cannot say enough about the extraordinary team of archivists, conservators, facility coordinators, software developers, thinkers that we have. We are truly privileged to have this team, and if I may, I just want to request all of you who are in the team, and you know who you are, to just at least raise your hands so the audience at least knows whom to hunt down later. Thank you to all, and that includes Ravi, who's taking the photographs. So this is the team from just this year. We have a host of interns who come and strengthen our work. We have people who come in and out. We have research fellows who come and start using the material, whom we'll talk about in a separate slide later. These are just images. It looks like we are having fun. We don't always have fun, but it's just been a lot of privileged work to be able to work with this team. So thanks for the opportunity, everyone. This is the team over the last 7 years. We've had over 100 people from various disciplines, over maybe 13 or 14 disciplines, who have in a way seen the archive as a waypoint in their lives. We don't expect everyone to become an archivist, but we expect everyone hopefully to leave with a sensibility of the archive. And for that, we've been just very happy to have most of the names that you see here are students. Some of them are not. But most of them are students at different age groups, between 18 and 30, different points in their life, first year of college, or even school for that matter, to postdoctoral students. So thanks to all of them here in this list who have shaped the space in the last 7 years now. final two thanks to the team, including someone like Abhishek, who's just running in to make sure that things are working fine, the instrumentation team, every single group on this campus that has sort of at least understood and nurtured the idea of the archive. It does take many different kinds of people to run a physical center like this, and we're very, very grateful to them as well. That said, running a center like this is relatively unusual, as you might hopefully see later today, and we struggle a lot with trying to find the best practices, the right guidelines, and we end up having to reach out to different people, different parts of the world. And so, to all these collaborating institutions who have supported us, shared with us ideas over the last many years, given us material sometimes, given us guidelines to work with, all of them have just been extraordinarily supportive, and so for that we're very, very grateful. So thanks to every one of them. I'm now going to pivot to mainly focus on why you're here today. The Archives at NCBS, as I said, is a collecting center for the history of science in contemporary India. I'm super proud on behalf of the team to say that as of now we have over 350,000 archival objects that are accessible to you as members of the public at no charge. This covers over 140 years of history, over 50 collections. Actually, that's not quite right. It's more like if you include all oral history interviews, it'll be more like over 120 collections. Material is in more than 10 different languages, and if any of you speak some of those languages, please contact us because we don't know how to describe it. We have material from 1876 and beyond. As I said, we are a contemporary archive, so we look for the last 200 years. And we have over 40 terabytes of data, although I think that number is also incorrect. It probably is more on the order of 50 terabytes of data. What you see below that is a large list of all the processed collections that are accessible on our website. And if you're into very specific numbers, what we are launching today is 106,774 digital objects and something like 5,100 something minutes, or about 86 hours of people reflecting on science at some level. So we're super, super excited for being able to do this. But we don't just do collections, as will be evident in the next few slides. The archive has 4 broad functions. We collect and preserve, of course, that's primarily what we are here for, but we also conduct our own research and have people come and do research using the archival material. We have a lot of outreach programs that my colleague Ojas will tell you about later, and education programs that he will talk about. So I just want to sort of highlight 2 projects before I hand off to my colleagues. One project that we've just started is the program for the archiving of science and technology with a focus on underrepresented histories across this country. And we just put out the award details for these 9 groups in different parts of the country, whom we will be working with, training with, learning from them, and hopefully you'll be able to see their work on our website in addition to us being able to nurture an archive in a different part of the country. So this is a new program that we've started to try and see other small archives in different parts of the country and thinking of this as a nodal center that they work with. So this is another direction in which we are expanding as a center. This is another fun project that we have started, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to see this very soon, which is very simply to say the archivist way of thinking cannot be the only limiting way in which you can find material. So this is a public annotation tool that we're developing so that you as members of the public can look at the archival object, add your own perspective to it, and that perspective is something that is visible to the third person that comes along. So this is another software tool that's being led by Ojas, who's sitting in the back, and Anupa John, who's our lead designer for this project, that we'll be launching in a few weeks, hopefully. So I'll leave you with a couple of slides. Sometimes very often people ask us, what's the point? Why are you guys doing this? What's the point of the archive in the larger scheme of things? And I do wonder about this myself sometimes, in terms of use and such, but I was just generally doing a Google search the other day for the scientist named P.K. Sukumaran, who was someone who's known for his work in sickle cell anemia, but we couldn't really find much material. And if you look for Sukumaran sickle cell on your phones or on your laptops or whatever, and if you have the AI thing enabled, what you will see is the AI overview, which is largely, almost entirely driven by the catalog entry at the archives at NCBS. This has happened in the last 1 year, and I think this basically means Dhatri was the one who developed this. So Dhatri's perspective is entirely the AI overview of Sukumaran's history. This is a huge thrill and also a huge concern for us. So we have to really get our stuff right. But anyway, it's not fully perfect. As Ojas pointed out, all AI tools are not great. We tried to do a DeepSeek, he did a DeepSeek query of what you know about the archives at NCBS, and apparently it still believes that we are a national collection of brothers. So I guess there is still a little bit of ways to go. So I suppose maybe a year from today this will change a little bit, but for now we are actually quite thrilled and happy that the work that we do seems to directly impact public knowledge of science. So with that, I would like to now hand it over to Deepika, who's going to give you a perspective on the collections from 24. Thank you. Thank you everyone for being here, and over to Deepika to talk about the collections.
So a really quick preface here to say the launch of any new collection is often just the beginning of the collection. And an archive is in a perpetual state of incompleteness. It's not exhaustive, it's not neutral. And with that preface, I would like to show you this photo. And can anybody tell me how many women they see in this photo? One. Can anyone recognize her? I know it's really small, but any guesses as to who that might be? This is okay, sorry. You can sorry, that was foolish. So just to tell you a little bit about why photos like this motivate some of the work that we do at the archives. In 2023, we felt the need to change our policies and our workflows because we noticed that despite our best efforts at the archives, we largely only received material from male scientists who tended to be from privileged castes. And we wanted to have collections that were reflective of how science is practiced in India, and not just collections that faithfully replicated biases in science based on gender, caste, religion, physical ability, and so on. And though people from marginalized communities within science may be smaller in number, they do exist, and we felt we were not working hard enough to collect and to preserve their material. And we also realized fairly quickly that these changes had to be structural. Good intentions weren't sufficient, and it couldn't be the effort of just one or two enthusiastic people at the archives. So we decided to focus on bringing in material from underrepresented communities within science, and we broadened our focus to look beyond eminent scientists and eminent within quotes in elite institutions. We expanded the fields we collect from to include public health and medicine, food technology, agriculture, and more. And we wanted to look beyond the hierarchies of fundamental and applied science, soft and hard science, and question what counts as science and who counts as a scientist. And while we found that having diverse voices is a little easier with oral histories, bringing in physical material from marginalized groups in science is much harder. And in our experience, material from women, particularly, is fragmented, it's hard to come by. Institutions, families, and even women themselves, they're less careful with such material. In the picture that you see here, several of the men are reasonably well known. You can see Nehru, you can see, I think, Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar, there's K.S. Krishnan, there's V. Subramanian, and you'll find some of these men in our archive. But Janaki Ammal's own personal papers don't seem to exist. I mean, not just in our archive, but her Janaki Ammal's papers are quite hard to come by. Much of it is thought to have been destroyed after her death. What little remains is in the archival collection of her mentor and collaborator Darlington at the Bodleian. So we tried to modify the way we worked in order to change what entered the archive. And we also tried to see archival objects differently. In the case of a woman scientist who may not have photographs and letters, what might count as evidence of her life and work? A hanky? Magazine clippings of recipes? These are questions we've had for a long time, but we paid extra attention to them in the last year. And so, with that context about what we've been doing in the last year, how do you find material on our website? You type in archives.ncbs.res.in, and this is likely the page that will come up if the internet is working. And this is also, there's a page called Featured Collections where we have the list of all the new material that we've processed that's up right now, so you can find them fairly easily. This includes some of our oral history interviews as well, which we've put online. And just to give you an example, from the featured, you see the featured collections here, you see Chenika Shah here at the bottom. And so this is just to give you a sense of how to navigate the website and how to find material. So when you click on Chenika, this is what comes up. This is how it appears on the website. Here there's some context about the collection. And on the right is a menu with the categories and subcategories that the documents are divided into. And it's a drop-down menu, so when you click on a particular category like correspondence, for example, you actually see all of the letters. And if they have a little that little icon next to them, it means that you can actually view it online. So when you click on it, you can go to the actual document. And so to give you a little context for Chenika and this document, Chenika Shah is a physicist, she's an educator, she studied at IIT Bombay, she's also a feminist and a queer rights activist with a large body of work also in the field of public health. And among many things she's worked on is a book called We and Our Fertility, published in the early 1990s. And so a lot of this correspondence that you see on the right is correspondence related to the book. It's a lot of people giving feedback on drafts of the book. And here, for example, is if we click on the letter that says Sushila, 13th May 1991, and there's the icon that says go to digital file. So when you click on that, this is the actual letter that comes up, and you can scroll through each of the pages and find it. And this particular letter is feedback saying points on which I would like to, so they were, Sushila is giving pointers, and she's classified them into points on which she wants to clarify for her own understanding. And the second point is points which I think might be reconsidered when preparing the Hindi book. So this went into multiple versions. If you want to look for oral histories on the website, when you go, you can pick the collections. They're usually prefaced with the term oral history. And when you click on them on the right side, you'll see a list of names in the drop-down menu. And this is one of the newer collections that we've put out now, Rohini Gorbole, a particle physicist who passed away recently. And it's a very weird thing to speak of her in the past tense because she passed away in October, and it feels like, it doesn't feel real, but if you were to click on, if you wanted to listen to any of the interviews that Rohini did, they run into 8 sessions, and if you pick any one of the sessions, for example, I've screenshotted session 1. So when you click on session 1, you go to digital file again. This is what shows up, and this is where you play it, and this is how you can listen to the interview. And I'm going to put a small clip here, just to give you a sense of the interview. Sorry, a little context. In this clip, Rohini talks about the excitement at CERN in July 2012 when the announcement was made confirming the Higgs boson particle. And Rohini happened to be at CERN at the time. She was teaching a summer course, and she said that in the section before this, she describes how everyone knew something was up. Everyone knew a big announcement was coming, and at dinners, at barbecues, it was all anyone could talk about. And she received an email saying that the classes that were supposed to happen couldn't happen in the lecture halls that they were meant to. And on July 4th, when the announcement was formally made, students at CERN were queuing up outside the auditorium according to her, from 4 in the morning, and the hall was packed and it was really difficult to get inside. So, fingers crossed that this plays, but great.
Because of the internet thing, but there's a copy on the computer to play.
Sorry, I need a bit of help finding it.
It's on the desktop, right on the
Okay, this one, Rohini audio. Yeah.
Was also with us trying to get into. So, but then Fernando Quevedo was also with us trying to get into the hall. Then Fernando, being the executive director, got in, and I think my friend Abdullah also got in along with him. I unfortunately didn't feel quite, I don't know, I felt a little bashful about getting in just because Fernando was there being allowed. So I sat in the theory group lecture hall and so it was just being there. But it didn't really diminish. And actually at that time I still remember I and after the thing was over, announcement was over, and after came out, they said, "Really, please excuse me, can I hug you?" I mean, that was just the whole community. You see, that was the excitement. It was like we found him. And it was all in the air for the 2 weeks that, every day me and others, we were and then we knew the numbers that were given to us were correct. So actually that night, we uploaded a paper on the archives and which appeared in the same issue of Physics Letters B, where the announcement of the signal is.
That's it. Sorry, I need help getting back to you. So do look for Rohini's interviews as well as other oral history interviews that we've published. At this point, I'd like to thank everyone who worked on the oral histories in various capacities. Hari Sridhar, Preeti Venkatram, Samyami Srivatsa, Salama Udaipurwala and Nainika Shome. And if you notice some summaries that are yet to be updated on the website, please do bear with us. This will happen in a couple of days. We've put out new interviews within these two collections, History of Science and Ecology and Conservation. Broadly 50 sessions, 20 different people. But in total at the archives we have about 300 interview sessions done by about 120 people. And out of this batch that's currently newly available, we have, it ranges from fields like theoretical physics, radio astronomy, to community-based conservation and ecological gardening. And just some information for those who are interested about some of our policies, how to access the collection, what's our policy for online access to digital objects, our take-down policy, so if there's something that we've missed as flagging as sensitive, other people can still contact us and let us know, and preservation and conservation standards. And we also, from this year onwards, we introduced 4 levels of access, and I won't go through them, but this is what you see over here. And for this year, we continue what we started. We're still seeking material from underrepresented groups in science, particularly physical materials such as letters, photos, research notes, and so on. And we are looking for people underrepresented in science on the following axes here. And if you have material that you would like to donate, if you have leads to such material, please do let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And please do contact us at archives@ncbs.res.in. And my colleague Anjali will take you through some of the physical material that we're putting out this year.
Okay, buckle up, it's like a long presentation, really sorry. My name is Anjali, I'm part of the archives, I work as an archivist. Every year the archives make accessible over 100,000 archival records related to the history of science in India. We spend a whole year collecting, appraising, arranging, describing, foldering and boxing all the material that you get to see on our digital archive. It's a long and tedious process, and we rarely speak about the joys of poring over letters and notebooks, or the deep, seething, malignant hatred for paper fasteners, paper clips, spiral binding, and stapler pins, which we spend hours removing from dusty folders, all to bring to you fascinating stories about science in India. I'd like to thank all the folks who worked on physical collections this year: Parvati, Datri, Shravya, Venkat, Twisha, Carol, Sinan, and Prasha. Today I'll be taking you through some of the collections from 2024 and highlighting some of our favorite documents. It's been an incredible year full of archival work. We have 23 collections to show for it, including one of the smallest collections at the archives, containing a few photographs and other documents related to Rachel Yeshodasan. It contains the photograph of Rachel Yeshodasan with Francis Crick at CCMB Hyderabad. It has been a very satisfying year. We have tried to capture the culture of science in India, and as Deepika had mentioned, our goal was to focus on collecting material from women and other underrepresented communities in science in India, with the hope of building a more inclusive archive. The Chandita Mukherjee papers sum up this effort. Chandita was a documentary filmmaker from Bombay whose deep engagement with science can be seen in her set of films on the history of science and technology in India called Bharat Ki Chap. The bound set of scripts of the documentary is now with us at the archives. Chandita's work with women's rights and science education is also documented in the archive, like you see here with a scarf commemorating the women's organizations that participated in a women's fair at Pune University in the year 2000. The Chainika Shah papers traces Chainika's own journey from physics at IIT Bombay to her very successful engagement as an activist and writer in reproductive rights, queer rights and women's rights movement in India. The papers also include my favorite archival record from 2024, a book on women's autonomy and rights over their bodies and selves called Na Shariram Nadi, My Body is Mine, by Sabla and Kranti, two incredible women's rights activists who left their home for the church and then left the church to find their voice in the women's rights movement in India. This is an example from my favorite collection from 2024, the papers of wildlife biologist B.C. Chaudhary, who worked as a herpetologist and helped establish standards in research and conservation of reptiles and amphibians in India. As you can see from the photograph, it was a very close-knit community. The crocodile is very happy to pose with all its friends it's made along the way on its journey to conservation. The collection is a wide variety of material in the form of photographs and this cute image of imprints of hind legs of baby crocs. The collection also has answers to questions you may never have had about crocodiles. Like, what do crocodiles do during a solar eclipse? If the observational data and graphs are to be believed, crocodiles spend most of their time during a solar eclipse floating. The collection also has a set of crocodile puns in the media clippings. What's up, croc? Being the archive's favorite. We had spent 2023 collecting material related to the history of ecology and conservation. And well, we've been saddled with the consequences of our actions in 2024 in the form of collections from 3 organizations involved with conservation. The largest collection is from Kalpabrish, which includes papers related to the National Biodiversity Action Plan. The Panduranga Hegde papers trace the history of Apico movement and other conservation movements in Karnataka. The ESG papers reveal the history of citizen-led engagement with conservation and role of protests and judicial activism as instruments in fighting development projects in Bangalore. We have material from 2 famous ornithologists. We found this letter and other ephemera tucked between the pages of a set of books that belong to Salim Ali that was donated to us by the Ali family. We also have the papers of Jamal Ara, whose beautiful prose on birds is only matched by her pen and ink illustrations of birds. Our space collections are growing with the addition of Y.S. Rajan papers revealing the early histories of the Indian space program. We have the papers of Ram Kumar Verma, who was a plasma physicist and former head of PRL Ahmedabad. We also have material related to the missile program from General Vijay Sundaram. We have papers of 2 founding directors of scientific institutions in India, V. Subramanian, who was the founding director of CFTRI, and K.S. Krishnan, who was the founding director of NPL. I guess these 2 photos are the most scientisty photo of a scientist doing science. My vote is for Krishnan, who is ecstatically holding up the first batch of liquid nitrogen produced at NPL in 1950s.
Liquid helium.
Sorry, liquid helium. You can correct our catalog later. Please come and meet me. Thank you. We also have papers of H.R. Arikeri, who was an agricultural scientist and former vice chancellor of UAS. I suppose the biggest perk of being a scientist who works on agriculture or food technology is that it's always okay to be seen gushing over a plate of food while at work. There has been an influx of a lot of new fields and disciplines in our archive. T.S. Balakrishnan was a geologist who led the first offshore petroleum exploration project at ONGC. G.S. Rawat is a botanist who works primarily on alpine ecosystem in the Himalayas. Our first collections related to medicine and public health came in the form of a loan collection from St. John's, the Swasth Hind magazine, which was published by the Central Health Education Bureau of India. We also have papers of M. Sharada Menon, who was the first woman psychiatrist in India. We have our first journalist in Usha Rai, who has written about development issues and women's rights. Anil Sadgopal papers trace the history of public education policy in the country. I hope all of you are still with me, and if you are, thank you. Another loan collection from APU is of the magazine Vigyan Karmi with writings about scientific temper and rationality in India. I leave you with the TNA Perumal papers. TNA Perumal was a wildlife photographer who began his career in the 1960s. His photos from forests across India, he manages to showcase the tranquility of mornings spent in the company of a deer in the mist, the chaos and adventure that await you at every step, and the wonder of every day spent in the company of nature. In Perumal, we also find evidence of, what shall we call it, a photographer's artistic process. To be fair to Perumal, this blurry photograph is followed by this incredible image of a man trying to do a wheelie on an elephant. Thankfully, Perumal sticks around to show us that no elephant was harmed in the making of the photograph and everyone parted as friends. That's it from me. From collections, I hand it over to Ojas, who will tell you about some of the other projects we've been working on.
So the archives, the last two axes of our work is outreach and research. This will be very brief and very quick. At the archives, we support research and archival processing, bulk of which you might have heard about already. What I hadn't heard was the term foxing, which has nothing to do with foxes. Just as how fishing has nothing to do with pH, fishing with the pH. In July 2024, we had a series of lectures around the city by the third obesity chair, Geeta Chadda. During her term as the OS chair, Geeta Chadda encouraged us to think about developing frameworks for feminist archiving. In 2024, we had the first batch of archive research fellows and scholars in residence invited to engage with our collections. One of the program's outcome was a series of talks last month by the research fellows centering around ecology, wherein we had conversations about history of conservation efforts of the Floricans to the legal and social challenges around the conservation of Bangalore's lakes. In August and October 2024, we had credited courses for the campus. The first one taught by the excellent Prashantes on the history of modern biology, and the second one by Savitri Prida Nair on the history and philosophy of science. That is one of my favorite slides in it, which says, dispensing of medical electricity. Not sure. Archives also works towards archival education. It is led by Anjali and Carol D'Souza, where we have internship summer programs and school curriculums. What you see here is a school program introducing archives of history of science at the Parikrama Center for Learning, which I had this in my school teaching. Instead of learning pointless programming, I could have learned how to tackle fake news. In August 2024, Archives released the first issue of its magazine, The Silverfish. The magazine hosts articles and artworks that give us an insight into our collections and archival processing. A digital copy of the magazine is also available on our About page, but you can scan this QR code to get the PDF directly. In November 2024, we hosted ISPAIR, a design researcher and new media artist from Berlin as part of the Bangalore residency program of the Goethe Institute. Their project, Sticky Networks, explores historical evolution of communications technology and its inspirations from and implications on urban ecology. One of our most popular engagement efforts with the NCBS campus still is the Archives Public Lecture Series, which started in 2018, and as of this year it has completed about 65 episodes. Lectures. The Archives has been host to 5 seasons of exhibitions, with the last one. Breakfast Table drew from the collections of Leslie Coleman and MS Swaminathan. So far we have had exhibitions that draw inspiration from our collections, but none that look into the process of archiving itself. meta archives, if you will. And hope to see you at the archives for the exhibition, introduction to the exhibition and the walkthrough. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for sticking around so far. We have a little bit of time if people have questions, comments at this stage. If I guess is the internet up?
Yes.
It is up, no?
Yes,
Do we want to brave it, Ojas, and make people do a search of the catalog? Your famous last words? No? Okay. The archive team is like shaking its head, no, we're going to see. But no, I mean, if anyone has any questions or comments at this stage before we head out for refreshments and head to the archives and look at the exhibition. Wow.
Just received an update.
Thank you. Thank you. Greatly appreciate.
I might have missed the initial part of it. How is the material collected? And for instance, like, yeah, just like Rohini's lectures and voice, like how was it collected for the archive? Was it during her presence or afterwards?
So, how do we get material generally? Sometimes people donate it to us, and more often than not, we reach out to people and we ask them for their material. And how we got the Rohini interviews was that we had been speaking to Rohini for a while about potentially getting some of her material, because she is a kind of famous scientist, so kind of, I mean, I don't know if household name is pushing it, but fairly well known. And we felt like someone as well known as her needs to have, her material has to be in an archive. And in some sense, we struggle even to get material from, quote unquote, eminent women scientists. So it was kind of a no-brainer asking her for material, and she was really interested in giving us. She did want to donate material to the archives, but she kept saying, I don't have physical material. We found that wasn't actually true, but this is a perception that a lot of people have, that they maybe don't have something that fits what an archive is looking for. A lot of women scientists say, I don't think I have anything that fits the bill. So we said, fine, how about we start with oral history interviews, and along the way, maybe that might give you ideas for things that physical material that might enter the archive. So that's really how that started. And so we did a series of 8 interviews spread over the course of a year, or a little more than a year. And that's how, she passed away before being able to give us some of her physical material, but her family did donate some of it and also gave us permission for the oral history interviews. And that's how the Rohini material came here.
Actually, I missed the initial part of the discussion session. So far, 1 lakh records is completed. So I want to know how much, maybe estimated number, how much spending to be processed.
I didn't get the question.
How many, maybe
Of?
archival records not processed. The catalogs, at least the catalog not captured, not segregated.
So, okay, not sure if I'm fully understanding it. In the last year, we have processed, in terms of scans, we almost create digital copies of everything for preservation. And if I'm not mistaken, Moses is correct me, I think we have on the order of about 140,000 plus digital objects, out of which we have various levels of access, and fully accessible online, there are about 106,000 or so. The remaining have other levels of access. You can make a request for it, or it is restricted access, or you have to come in person. I hope that gives you a sense. That's
kind of segregated, not segregated. In the middle of process, something in boxes, which is not open.
unprocessed material. We always have a backlog. We should show you some of the memes in Lab 18. I don't know, what's our backlog right now, guys?
I mean, if anybody wants to help us process
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, let's say we have about 50 odd archival boxes of unprocessed material. I mean, this is an arbitrary number, don't sue me, etc. Whatever.
About 200 oral history sessions.
Sorry?
Around 200 oral history sessions.
Yeah, another unprocessed 200 sessions of interviews. So yeah, it's yeah. If any of you wants to come, we can show you material. We are always looking for people. Yeah. Yeah, we always get more than we can process. Yeah. Which is a nice problem to have, but we have to get on to it.
I have two questions.
Just if you don't mind, just hang on because
I have two questions. One is a more access question. How does, we have a lot of young people here, so how does one access archives physically? What's the process? How do students reach out to you? What's the time, like what is available to them? How can they access? Second is, we've often talked about the politics of archiving, and I think Deepika also mentioned it in her presentation. Could maybe the archivists reflect on on some of the politics of archiving that you've encountered, and what have you tried to, how you tried to address that, etc. Or you can just
That's
answer
like
the
a
first
one-week
question.
answer. But
I'll handle the easy part and hand off the difficult part to my colleagues. So the easy part is all of you are welcome. We are open Monday through Friday, 10 to 5. If you want to come in person, it's usually easier for us if you send us an email, but in theory you could walk up to the gate and tell them you're coming to the archive, in theory. In practice, the security staff keeps changing, and so they don't always let you in, but you can call the number up, the archive's number up from the gate if you're there. But if you know you're coming, just send us an email, generally speaking. If you just want to look at material on the archival material on our catalog, you could probably just do that from your home or your phone when the internet is working. So give that a spin, and that's what we would encourage you to do. I mean, we would also like to learn from all of you as new users of the archive to see how to improve our catalog and access to all of you. So we'd actually prefer not giving many instructions. Maybe you just tell us if you're able to navigate it, and if you can't, we'll see how to fix things. Maybe that's something that we can try and do. Politics of the archive. Anybody?
I mean, I guess all archives have its own politics, like every other place and space. I guess at our archive we've tried to spend a tough year looking within and try to figure out what is it that we want to do. And the idea is to build a more inclusive space, and I guess we've been trying to do it in two ways. One is diversity at source, so collect from different folks who work in different intersections with science, because that's our essential mandate, science and media. And the second thing is diversity within our team as well. Like, I think having different kinds of people from different backgrounds, they bring their own networks, their own politics, and yeah, I guess that's what we're really trying to do.
Regarding access, like I just had a suggestion. I'm not sure if you have considered it, but like you have so much digital material. Maybe if you can put an AI interface on top of it, and maybe like have a chat GPT sort of an interface. Maybe let's say if I want to know about a person who has been catalogued, I can directly ask a question, and the AI can refer to the documents, images, everything, and give me an answer. Maybe much more useful way to, or easier way to access.
I mean, I feel like this question just like set up for Ojas to respond or comment to. So.
Yeah, so we have something called an OAI endpoint, open like harvesting endpoint for the archives. So if you have an AI and if you want to train a model, you can train a model. The endpoint is basically all our catalog metadata, and you can query it. We invite people to set up an AI model, but we don't, I mean, they are already doing it. So you can straight away like build a model out of whatever harvesting you can do from our endpoint. We don't actually have the capacity to run an AI model and train it. That would require a lot of compute. But yeah, sure. Yeah, if you have funds for it.
So we talked about the multiple archives that are existing right now, and I'm assuming there are a few archives which are like fairly much more focused on, and we talked about feminism being one, we talked about ecology being one, and food technology being one. So my question basically is towards how museums basically respond to this. Like, since so many archives are coming forward, do you think like museums might take a stronger response to something like ecology and feminism and science instead of the majority things that they focus on, which could be mythology and just artifacts? That's something we are moving towards as well.
Would anyone from the team like to respond? I mean, I can just offer a quick thing to say that, I mean, there are different kinds of museums, and I would imagine there are other museums in the country that are focused on some of the areas that we are focused on. I don't know. I don't know much of the museum space, to be honest. But I imagine that happens, and in those cases they will probably draw on similar archival material for their exhibitions. So I mean, in theory, for instance, the Vishweshwara Museum in Bangalore could draw upon a lot of the material that is there in this archive for its curatorial work that is now becoming available to them. Sadhana here has been instrumental in shaping some of its work, so we're very delighted to actually be in close collaboration with someone who has infused the thought process of that museum. I don't know about other fields. Anybody else wants to weigh in? I don't know if that answered your question though.
I think there was a slide about this, but what's the process of preserving these material? Like when you physically preserve them, what sort of technology are you using and how long do they last for?
Can you just pass your mic 3 rows behind you? There you go, perfect.
Okay, first, we keep all the materials that we receive. Sorry, I can't find it. So whatever collection we get first, it goes to the quarantine space. So we have a small room for that. So we make sure there are no pests or mold infestation or any such kind of infestation, and we make sure we brush it off. And then all the archiving process and all happens, like accession, before that, uprising, so all those things. And all those materials are then housed in archival grade folders, which are like tested basically, acid-free archival grade folders, and those folders goes into archival boxes like containers, and then we keep that in the shelves. So that's how we keep, but as a material, that's how we are stored, and then temperature and humidity are like standard 24/7, 365 days we monitor. No fluctuations. AC or humidity humidifiers are like every day it's on, so that is one of the way. And pest, we make sure there are no entry. I think Ravi makes sure, actually he is very helpful in that. Like every day he monitors like really patiently like all the entry points, even a small minute holes in the windows and all, that there would be the entry points of insects coming in and water leakage. So we make sure there are no water leakages, and some we put those sensors down, so wherever there are pipes in case if there are, so where it alarms goes off. And so these are quite a few monitoring terms we follow, and then later we do condition reporting, where we go to each object and material and see which is like we make a note on that. We have a report, So we have like 1 to 5 marking for that, and 1 is like most deteriorated, and 5 is like relatively decent enough for next 5-10 years. So then we address all the ones, like again before addressing ones we will go to the archivist and ask them which are of most significant, and we just take those things and do conservation treatment of those. So.
We also do digital preservation, kind of. So I'm saying kind of because, okay, I should not say that. We do digital preservation. What is? I'm just saying kind of because we are running into a point where we're just having so much digital data that we are also trying to figure out it's expanding exponentially every year. So that's where we are struggling a little bit with preserving these digital copies or finding storage in a way that we know that is reliable and such. So we're trying to figure out what the processes for that would be going forward. Okay, maybe we'll take 2 more questions because it's already 5 and then we'll wrap it up.
So the last time I was here with my college. So that time we had a question in general, what are the problems that the archive is facing, and I think one of the biggest problems that you guys told was transportation, like where during transport the few archival materials are maybe damaged or yeah, so basically they're damaged. So I'm very curious if there is any archival material which was maybe hard for you guys to decipher or figure out what it was, or it was completely damaged after coming to the archives. Is there anything as such, like archival material which was damaged after coming to the archive or while coming to the archive?
I think we have fully damaged. We're paranoid about it, and we have a set of protocols now, and we have some structure on how to bring it. We did have a situation where some of the shipments in the cars that we received, when we received the box, it wasn't, it was torn in some portions of it, and so those are the reasons why we got more paranoid. But I don't think we've received material that was fine at the start and is completely damaged when it reaches us. I don't think that's happened yet. Right, guys? Yeah, not yet. Yeah. Knock on whatever. But we have a standard set of protocols now for shipment of material. We try and avoid. We can walk you through it. It's like what you would do for the things you care about. It's really nothing else, nothing more than that. This material survives because people take care of it, and it's sort of, if you can call it, it's the final journey before it starts living a new life. So we just try and make sure that we can have a good journey. One last question if someone has one. Okay. Guys, should we really not do the online thing? Now it's been going so well. No? Studies, alright. We will probably then wrap it up here. And we just do join us for refreshments in the amphitheater. Just follow us out, and we will then take you over to the exhibition right after. So thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you in the archives.